Good afternoon, Bakersfield, Kern County, and beyond. Welcome to Solution Focused Media with John French. I'm John French, your host. Welcome this wonderful Tuesday afternoon. I'm trying to remember what today's date is. What is today's date?
The 21st.
The 21st of September. And on the way over here, I was listening to one of our local talk stations, found out that, in case you hadn't tuned in or weren't aware of the events in the courts back east, Paul Manafort was convicted on 8 counts. The jury was hung on 10 counts, so the judge declared a mistrial. Also, Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, also pled guilty on 8 counts as well. Paul Manafort's were tax counts. So the ongoing saga of politicizing political alignments continues, the saga, and we'll see what the counts that he was found guilty for, what kind of punishment that will come of that. They were saying for Michael Cohen it's going to be about 3 to 5 years. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Paul Manafort, Manafort. I'm not sure in terms of that goes. I guess that we'll see as it happens. Wanted to begin today's show off after that with some good news, though. The good news is that Steve Perry has made a comeback musically. I think it's the right time, right place, and we appreciate you, Mr. Perry, for coming back because we need some good music right now in these times we live in of turmoil and discourse. So we're real pleased. He's got a song called No Erasing, with the apostrophe, not erasing, but it's trending. At one point it was number 12 on YouTube, and he's got a lot of interviews out there, and I guess he's rediscovered his love of music. So I got a hold of my friend Inga Barks the other day and shared that with her. She was thrilled. She loves the track. Inga, you are the litmus test by which Steve Perry Journey tracks are judged, and you said you loved it. You said it was classic Journey. I concur. It is classic Journey. I'm going to start a Cracker Barrel in Bakersfield watch. I was reading an article that said they are going to have 3 new Cracker Barrels in California. And to my surprise, Santa Maria got one, of all places. Now, I love Santa Maria. Good on you, Santa Maria. We salute you. But how can you not have a Cracker Barrel in Nashville West or Texas West? How can you not have a place that specializes in catfish and fried okra not be in Bakersfield? I tell you, I just sent him a message before the show, and I said, you know what, there'll be a line out the door if you give us one. Heck, we'll probably need 2, knowing our town. But that's the kind of good news that we got going on. And lately I've been noticing in our community there's been a lot of talk here on Kerncast by various personalities, and a lot of shows highlighting the problem of homelessness. I shouldn't say the problem, I would say the issue of homelessness, because I think anything that we look at, it's a matter of perspective. We can look at it as an issue, we can look at it as a problem. It just depends on the way you look at things. And I know the issue of homelessness has been going on for some time in Bakersfield, but it's a growing issue as we notice the homeless population here in town growing. I'm going to be up front. I work in the helping industry, and I come across homeless people constantly out on the streets and in my personal and professional life. And I am concerned with the issue here in Bakersfield, Kern County, and statewide. California has always been a place where homeless people migrate. The weather's good. It's easy to sleep outdoors here. Our state is very accepting of diverse populations, and so you're seeing a shift from the punitive side of the way that law enforcement and local governments deal with homelessness. And what we're left with the large population of lost souls and people who have a lot of different stories. I was telling someone today, I think the biggest issue with homelessness was similar to the issue that we had with marijuana when they were wanting to bring marijuana and legalize marijuana in California. There were a lot of people. It started off as a medical issue. And the truth that we found out was for every one person who was legitimately using it for medical issues, there was probably 1,000 people saying they were using it for medical issues and getting high. So I think in the situation with homelessness, while it's easy for the news media to drag or bring a few people out in front of the camera and highlight the fact that life was hard or the circumstances were hard and the circumstances were tough, a lot of us that live in our town know and understand that for every one of those person, there's probably anywhere from 300 or 400 people who life choices are to live within this lifestyle, to have a hustle mentality, to have in many cases, a thief mentality, and basically it's causing a nuisance in our community. It's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. And what we see here in places like Los Angeles is we have populations of up to 50,000 homeless people. And the end result of that, the unintended consequences of that, is that we're finding deadly outbreaks of hepatitis. You've got unsanitary conditions. You've got people with mental health and substance abuse issues that are going untreated. You've got public sanitation issues for trash and human waste. And you've got a great big puddle of frustration and overwhelming confusion for people that go to work, pay their taxes, and have done what they've needed to do to have what we call, quote unquote, a normal lifestyle. I will say that there are a lot of people out there that are homeless, that legitimately are homeless, that lost their jobs and lost their way. And there are a lot of females that are legitimately homeless, having gotten out of abusive situations, or again, lost their jobs, lost their way. Life circumstances pulled them in several directions, many times by their own choices, many times by circumstances. But I also know that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling, like I said earlier, with mental health and substance abuse issues. A dear friend of mine recently visited a community in Austin, Texas, and it's called Community First Village in Austin. And this is a dear friend of mine who is, by all accounts, very liberal in her thinking, but I just love her because she's very compassionate, she's very kind, and she's very, very intelligent woman, and I respect her. I really wish I could have gotten her to come on the show. She was a little bit nervous about coming on, and I didn't want to press the issue, but I spent some time with her talking to her about what she saw in Austin. And Austin is what they've created in Austin is similar to a community they created up in Oregon, in that it's a community where they provide housing for homeless people, where they provide job development and skill building programs. And I thought at first, what is this, some sort of hippie commune, or what in the world was going on, were they just going to let them sit around and smoke pot all day? And what I found out was pretty fascinating, given the fact that it's from a place like Austin, Texas, which is basically, in terms of liberalism, Sacramento, Southwest, okay? And I didn't have high hopes when she went there and visited, and yet what she told me I found to be fascinating. And when we talk about solution-focused media, because that's what our show is all about, it's finding solution-focused media, what I found is that the overall vibe in this community in Austin is one of empowerment. And it's one of respect and acceptance. And what I found, what she was telling me, was that to live in this community, they provide you housing, they give you a tiny house, they have different types of housing. Love the tiny houses. And personally, I think tiny housing would be good for people that don't have a lot, that are struggling to get on their feet, but they provide housing there, provided that you can contribute to the community. And what that means is you have to have some means of either paying your way, or you have to have some means of contributing either to the upkeep of the community, or in the various, like they have a gift shop where people can buy gifts, so they handcraft gifts for people to buy. They have blacksmithing, they have all kinds of different things. They have hair cutting, auto repair, businesses of that nature that generate money that help pay for this community. And what she said was that there are only a few of the most vulnerable that are let in there. What that means is the people that are really struggling with drug or alcohol problems, people that have issues that would prevent them from being stable in their own housing, like not killing themselves, not selling drugs, not starting a gang. And those folks are allowed in there in limited numbers. And part of contributing to this program is to become a mentor to some of the vulnerable. So what we found here, when we talk about solutions, in Austin we've got a community that welcomes people that are able to contribute. Now, why is this pertinent? Because we always hear, when we talk about the homeless, we always hear, if I was just given a chance, life has been hard, if people would just give me a chance, if people would just give me a chance. And so Austin has put their money where their mouth is, which surprisingly, the town has a rap for being pretty out there, and yet they put their money where their mouth is, and they said, okay, let's assume that what you're saying is true. Let's assume that you want to have an opportunity to do for yourself and come up if you were just given an opportunity to work or apply your craft. So what they've done is they've done that. And I see that as a potential solution here in Kern County. I think that we do need to provide housing to people because the truth is we're going to pay for them one way or another. Now, some of my conservative, a little more to right than me, and I consider myself pretty right, would say, well, how are we going to pay for this? And we can't just give all this money to people. We can't just keep taxing people into oblivion. But the truth is that we're going to pay for them one way or another. Much in the fact that our prison population, which we have one of the biggest in the state, we can put people in jail. We can't lock our way up out of the drug problem. It's been proven. But eventually those folks are going to be back out on the street, and without some sort of rehabilitative component to prison, without some sort of educational component, we're going to pay for them anyway. And the truth is, homelessness costs our city and our state and our nation billions of dollars. So we're either going to pay for them in a more expensive way when we have to treat their medical issues or their substance abuse issues or whatever issues come with this. We can either pay for it when it becomes a huge problem, or we can pay for it when people are still able and active to work and care for themselves. So I think that what they're doing at Community First Village in Austin is a fantastic solution, offering housing to people who want a hand up versus a hand out. And I think that's important. The nice thing is that we already have programs like Salvation Army, we have programs like Teen Challenge, we have programs like Victory Outreach, which provide a substance abuse treatment component for homeless people. The mental health department recently has formed what's called the REACH team, which goes out and we talk about a fantastic solution. The REACH team goes out in the community and engages people who are resistant to traditional mental health treatment, meaning that we come to you, or they come to you, and they connect with them, and they encourage them to come into treatment through respectful dialogue and contact. And I think that's another viable solution. So we have several organizations out there that are offering viable solutions for the homeless out there. And I think that one of the components to this, when we talk about solutions, is the empowerment. And what we can do is we can take young people, transitional age youth, 18 to 25, maybe they've been in foster care, maybe they have mental health issues, maybe they don't have any skills or education. We can take actual homeless people. We can take people from all walks of life, and we can train them. I think New Life Construction already has a program similar to this where they build doll houses and sell them. And we can engage people in our community that are homeless and disadvantaged, and we can train them in carpentry on building the tiny houses or the smaller homes that our homeless population can live in, that want to come in and contribute to the overall village of this. One of the things that my friend talked about was homelessness is a issue of lost connections. And what that means is a lot of people, the connection has been lost of the people that are working versus the people that live on the streets, people in the community versus people on the streets. And one of the things that the community in Austin does is it hosts community events where the community is invited to come and join the population that are being served in the village for free movie night and different community activities where they can actually get together and talk and interact with each other, so they can see that not all homeless people are dirty and filthy and shifty and sketchy, and they can see people that are genuinely wanting to care for themselves, which instills hope not only into the person when they feel less judged by members of the community, but it also instills hope in people in the community where they can see that not everybody is out to steal or rob or get anything. I mean, the truth is, when we look at homelessness, we have to follow, I think, the words of Jesus when he said, "Judge not, lest you be judged." Because the truth is that any of us could certainly live anyone's life given the circumstances. And we tend to, in the hustle and bustle of life and in the some of the ways that people are portrayed in various things, media included, we tend to forget that these are human beings, and we tend to forget that everybody has a story to tell. We're going to be coming up on a break here in just a minute, and on the other side of the break, I have, you're asking, John, this village sounds great. How in the world are we going to pay for it? I've got a viable solution in a place you'd never think, coming right up.
At the time you were arrested, you were served with a DS-367 temporary driver's license. It's good for 30 days, but if you don't act within 10 days, at the end of those 30 days, your license will be suspended. It's important for your lawyer to contact the DMV for you. Set up a driver's license administrative hearing so that your license is not going to suspension. That's something here at Braemar Law we do for you.
I choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
We choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
We choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
If the best criminal attorneys choose Patriot Bail Bonds, who would you choose?
Patriot Bail Bonds. We fight for your freedom.
Patriot Bail Bonds has the best customer service in Bakersfield. Patriot has more 5-star ratings than any bail company in Kern County. Plus, we're fast and affordable. If you run into the law, make Patriot Bail Bonds your first call. That's right, one call, that's all.
If you're in jail, call Patriot Bail.
Media. I'm John French, and we're pleased to have you with us this Tuesday afternoon talking about the issue of homelessness. There's my friend Inga just walked up. Hi, Inga. There she is. Coming up live next, Bakersfield hometown girl, someone that I actually went to school with back, I think it was like 10 years ago. Anyway. We're talking about homelessness, and there's been a lot of talk about homelessness, and there's been a lot of conspiracy theories that they're sending them from the Bay Area and Los Angeles. But the truth remains that we've got to come up with a solution to this issue because it's frustrating. We see the end results of it. We see the garbage heaps everywhere. We see the people wandering around. We see the drug addiction. We see the crime. And just a few moments before the break, I was talking about a community in Austin, Texas, of all places, called Community First Village, that is actually empowering people, the ones that genuinely want to change their life, and giving them an opportunity to come and put their money where their mouth is, because Austin's putting their money where their mouth is by providing housing and job training and community events that invite the community to come and reconnect with the disadvantaged in their communities. And I got to say, overall, the results have been stellar. Now, the truth is, a lot of people would look at this and say, well, it's kind of like California decriminalizing everything to reduce their prison population. But this really is different in that they're giving people that honestly want a chance, a fair shake. And I've got to tell you, I'm very encouraged by this. Now, a lot of their funding comes from private donors. A lot of organizations that want to do something about it. And I love it because it's one thing to vote for somebody and think you're a good person by thinking that politician's taking that tax money and doing something. I don't consider that benevolence. I consider true benevolence when I go out in the community and I do something because it's the right thing to do. Not having the government confiscate money down the barrel of a gun with the threat of prison in order to either empower themselves or get votes, or on the very rare occasion do the right thing. Yeah, I don't trust government, but the truth is that a lot of organizations have helped fund this. But a big portion of the funding, what will we do? I mean, where do we get the materials? And I'm going to suggest something crazy, because we've got a couple issues. Homelessness is one of them. The other issue that concerns a lot of people is marijuana. The state of California has basically legalized marijuana for recreational use, and following Colorado and Washington's lead, which I think we put the cart before the horse, because there's no ceiling on potency for marijuana. Therefore, we don't know what it does to people's brains, other than the fact the research indicates that high THC content marijuana is very damaging to young people, and a lot of young people get pot from their parents that buy pot, but that's another sermon we'll get into another time. But the truth is, if we're going to have this stuff, and we're going to, they're saying, look here, we're going to have all this money, then I think we ought to use the money to pay for the homeless issue, because substance abuse is a big, giant component of homelessness. And it's a great big topic and a great big show. We're going to get into substance abuse. I'm going to have a few of my contemporaries come in and we're going to talk about it. But the truth is that I don't consider it very humane, releasing people on the streets and having the streets take 20 years off their natural life. Again, we're going to pay for these folks one way or another. Jesus said, judge not and you won't be judged. And the truth is, where everybody has a story to tell. And I agree. Are there people that take advantage of God? Yes. Are there people that try to scam the IRS? Gosh, yes. As evidenced by every year the number of people that go to prison. Are there people that try to get over with extreme couponing? Of course there are. And there are people for various reasons that try to game the system. But I've got to make a personal disclosure. I am a recovering addict. And I was out there for 20 years. Was I out to get over? Gosh, yes, man. I was running every scam in the world to feed my drug habit. I was on Kern County's favorite drug, methamphetamine, for 10 years. And I had every other drug in the book. But the truth is, when my soul got exhausted and I had nowhere left to turn, I found a place where they treated me like a human being, and my life began to change. And I will never forget that. When I walked into that place, I felt like a complete and total failure. I felt like a complete and total loser. And they could have said, you know what, you're a loser, you're a piece of crap, you're going to have to just hang your head in shame and take what scraps we give you. But these people didn't do it. A gentleman named Marvin, who owns Experience Dance in Bakersfield, was one of the intake coordinators, and the man treated me like a human being. And I was able to hold my head up, and I was able to get the help I needed. And now I'm a responsible member of this community. And it made all the difference in the world. We find solutions when we focus on the things and the ones that we can make a difference in. We empower ourselves to find our passion by going out and helping others. And it's like the story of the guy with the millions of starfish on the beach. The guy said, you can't help all these starfish. The guy picked up one and threw it in the ocean and said, well, I helped that one. And the truth is that if we can take these tax dollars that are generated through the legal sales of marijuana, and we can start programs like this, then I think that government component in terms of the funding would be put to good use. And then we bring in the other places, like Garden Pathways is getting into a project for the homeless, going out and meeting people where they live and encouraging them into treatment, treating them with dignity and respect. Again, we can rail against the homeless. We can be mad against them. We can think that we owe them something. We can project all our feelings of frustration, or we can do something about it. And we can get on the phone and we can talk to the people that make our laws and our politicians. I guess that's one and the same. And we can encourage them to use some of this money from marijuana to treat substance abuse, to get dignified housing to the homeless, because it costs a lot more money to let folks wander on the street. And again, I don't consider it a compassionate thing to do to let the streets take 15 to 20 years of someone's life. Now, what can we also do as people? Well, we can get out and we can join our churches and religious organizations and community organizations, and we can go out and connect with people. We can go out and take our kids with us to places that are safe and listen to the stories of people. We can go out and let our kids see the end result of choices that people make. Not to treat them like pets, but just to say, look, if you make good choices, this is the life you can live. If you have other choices, this is the other side of life. We want people to be treated with dignity, and again, we don't want them to feel like they're in a zoo. But I think that going out and helping people, going out and connecting with people, just like that group of people did for me. And the truth was, no one went out and chased me down in the streets. As a matter of fact, when you're a drug addict, even though you may think by looking at out the blinds, everybody's looking for you, no one's looking for you but death. And the truth is, when my soul got tired, I went and sought help. And if we can just go out and we can treat people with dignity, that's one thing. Now, the other piece is, I also believe that if people are going to break the law, we need to also encourage our politicians to reverse some of these laws that they have that have decriminalized a lot of theft and a lot of stuff that allows people to skate the system. I think that if people are given either a sufficient delicious carrot or a sufficient boogeyman, it's called operant conditioning. It's changing behavior through positive or negative reinforcement. I think that we can get some movement. But if there's no consequences for people trespassing, if there's no consequences for people stealing, I mean, part of the cost of our groceries is rolled into the number of shopping carts that go out there. And this isn't the amount of tens of millions of dollars every single year that gets rolled into your food costs. So I think there need to be consequences for bad behaviors in our community. But I also think that it took me over 20 years to get help. And a lot of people who expect the homeless people to change just like that forget how long it took them to get a car and to do a lot of things. So that is my solution. We talk about solution-focused media. Let's let marijuana pay for this issue of homelessness, and let's empower ourselves to empower others by getting out there and not trusting a bunch of people in Sacramento to do something. Let's not abdicate what we ourselves can do. Let's not abdicate our ability to find our passion in life and to find our place in society. And let's go out and do something about this instead of just sitting around being upset. It's been Solution Focused Media with John French. Have a great Tuesday. Inga's up next.